Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Mark, Phillip, and a whole bunch of other people sent me this story about the Federal Trade Commission and Adobe. And some people my age will remember America Online. And the joke about America Online was that everybody at one point or another had an AOL account. That's how many people got on the internet for the first time. Then when they realized there's better, cheaper ways to get on the internet, a lot of people bailed on AOL. But the trick was, how do you bail on them? Because if you called them to cancel your service, they'd argue with you. They would not let you cancel their service without speaking like 3 or 4 different people, being hung up on 4 or 5 times, and being insulted along the way. And it was crazy. They clearly had a system in place where they said, don't let people cancel. And at first, they'd offer you stuff. And then later, they'd start going, well, let me talk to your mother. And I remember a guy who was in his 40s who go, yeah, they asked to speak to my mother. And I said, what? And so apparently they're also allowed to go off the script. But now the Federal Trade Commission is taking action against Adobe and its executives for hiding fees, preventing consumers from easily canceling software subscriptions. And it's just one of those things that reminds me of AOL. Complaint charges that makers of Photoshop and Acrobat have deceived consumers about early termination fees and have inhibited cancellations. Now, I'll tell you, I use Adobe. I edit these videos in Adobe Premiere, and I've used them for several years now. So I've not encountered this. I've not attempted to cancel my service. But now I'm starting to wonder, federal court complaint filed by DOJ upon notification and referral from the FTC charges that Adobe pushed consumers toward the annual paid monthly subscription without adequately disclosing that canceling the plan in the first year could cost hundreds of dollars. So the president of the business and the vice president have also been named in this. Adobe trapped customers into year-long subscriptions through hidden early termination fees and numerous cancellation hurdles, says the director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Americans are tired of companies hiding the ball during subscription sign-up and then putting up roadblocks when they try to cancel. The FTC will continue working to protect Americans from these illegal business practices. After 2012, Adobe shifted principally to a subscription model, requiring consumers to pay for access to the company's popular software on a recurring basis. Subscriptions account for most of the company's revenue. Now, I at one point in time owned Photoshop. I actually got a copy of Photoshop, and I owned it. Now, updates might cost you money, but for the longest time, I just used it, and there was no further cost. But I remember when I switched to Adobe Premiere from the shareware I was using in the early days of this channel, they go, oh, it's a monthly subscription fee, and you got to sign up for a year. And I did that, and I've been there for more than a year and have not tried to cancel, so I've not encountered this. But I pay the monthly fee to use Adobe Premiere. So according to the complaint, when consumers purchase the subscription through the company's website, Adobe pushes them to its annual paid monthly subscription plan, pre-selecting it as a default. Adobe prominently shows the plan's monthly cost during enrollment, but it buries the early termination fee and its amount, which is half of the remaining monthly payments if a consumer cancels in the first year. Adobe's disclosures are buried on the company's website in small print or require consumers to hover over small icons to find the disclosures. Some people right now are going, Steve, remember in the opening part of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? All these notices are on file. Consumers complained to the FCC and the Better Business Bureau about the ETF. According to the complaint, these consumers report they were not aware of the existence of the early termination fee or the annual paid monthly plan required their subscription to continue for a minimum of a year. The complaint notes that Adobe has been aware of consumers' confusion about the ETF. Despite being aware of the problems consumers were having with it, the company continued its practice of steering consumers to the annual paid monthly plan while obscuring the early termination fee. That's according to the complaint. In addition to failing to disclose the ETF to consumers when they subscribe, the complaint also alleges that Adobe uses that fee to ambush consumers to try to discourage them from canceling the subscriptions. The complaint also alleges that Adobe's cancellation process is designed to make cancellation difficult. When consumers have attempted to cancel their subscription on the website, they've been forced to navigate through numerous pages in order to cancel. When consumers reach out to Adobe's customer service to cancel, they encounter resistance and delay. Consumers also experience other obstacles, such as dropped calls and chats, and multiple transfers. And a dropped call is someone hangs up on you. Some consumers who thought they had successfully canceled reported the company continued to charge them until discovering the charges on their credit card statements. The complaint charges that Adobe's practices violate the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act, or ROSCA. Sometimes they have better ones, sometimes they've got dumber ones. The commission voted to refer the civil penalty complaint to the DOJ for filing, and they voted 3-0 on that. The Department of Justice filed the complaint in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. The commission refers complaints for civil penalties to the DOJ for filing when they have reason to believe that the named defendants are violating or are about to violate the law, and that a proceeding is in the public interest. This case will be decided by the court unless they decide to settle. So they could settle, and they could just say, you know something, we'll clean this up a little bit. What do you want us to do? And they could negotiate something, clean it up, and take care of it that way. Of course, by not doing that, they can take it to court, all kinds of publicity, stories like this on channels on YouTube, and everyone's going to go, oh, huh. And now here's the thing. When I started using Adobe Premiere a few years ago, like 4 years ago maybe, 5 years ago, I asked around. I've got several people in the industry, as they say, and I contacted them. Said, look, I'm going to be shooting videos of my own and editing them myself. But they're going to go on YouTube, and I want them to be just a little bit better looking than they are right now, because I was using shareware that came with my Windows. And I had 3 different people whose opinions I trust, independent of each other, not knowing each other, all say, Steve, use Adobe Premiere. Use Adobe Premiere. So I've been using it now for all these years. I've never tried to cancel it, so I've never had this issue. I can tell you, in the last few years, I've had people coming to me saying, Steve, there's an alternative to Adobe. You should try this other one. And a bunch of them have mentioned the same one. So all I'm saying is that if I were to ask the same question today to my friends, hey, I'm thinking about upgrading my game on my videos, what should I do? I guess that some of them would say, oh, well, you got your Adobe Premiere and you got this newer one, but I've been hearing bad things about Adobe Premiere. Oh, what kind of bad things? Well, the program is pretty good. But if you ever try to cancel, like you're unhappy with it, good luck with that. And there's also a monstrous early termination fee that you got to pay. Oh, does the other one have that? If the answer is no, I'd go there, because I'm a firm believer that the number one thing you can do in this world as a consumer is try to vote with your money. That is, you support businesses you like, you spend your money there. You don't like this business, don't spend your money there. And eventually, that'll add up, especially if there's more people like you and me. And so if Adobe is doing this right now, there are people right now today who are doing the same research I did 5 years ago, asking around going, what should I do? Should I go with Adobe? Should I go with this? Should I go with that? And people are saying, oh, got to watch out for Adobe. They got that wacky thing, the early termination fee. So theoretically, you sign up for 1 year. And 1 month in, you go, you know something, I can't handle this. I don't like this. Something doesn't work. I cancel. Well, you got to pay for that first month and then 1/2 of the cost for the next 11 months. That's your early termination fee, according to this. Do you want to face that risk? No, I wouldn't want to face that risk. So, again, like I said, I'm kind of in this boat, but not really, because I've been with it for more than a year and I've had no trouble with them. But this is an issue. And I'm telling you right now, we all learned from the AOL fiasco. Where are they today? I understand they still sort of exist. I see people send me emails with AOL addresses. But, I mean, that's old school. But it didn't help them. It may have helped them a little bit. And they may have said, look at all the people we're retaining who gave up trying to cancel. Yeah, but word of mouth got out. And at that time, AOL had competitors. Where do you think these people wanted to go? They wanted to go someplace else. And so it drove people to the competitors faster, I think. So Adobe, what they should be doing, here I'm going to get my soapbox, what they should be doing is making a better product. And if their product is not better, instead of trying to retain customers and take money from customers who want to leave, make your product better. How about that? And I'll give you an example of one problem I do have with Adobe. I just remembered one. So I shoot a lot of stuff with GoPros in the summertime, especially with my cars and mountain biking and things like that. And there's all these presets in the editing of Adobe. And they used to have a preset that would undo all of the effects that GoPro caused to happen with its fisheye, for instance. So GoPros are wide angle quite often. You can set them to be very, very wide angle. The problem with wide angle, of course, is there's curvature that appears in the corners of the image. And you can undo that, right? And so Adobe had presets where you could say, this is the GoPro I'm using, here's the setting I'm using, and you drag it over and boom, it corrected for all of that. And a little while back, I was trying to edit some GoPro footage on my Adobe, and I couldn't find those presets anymore. And I'm like, am I losing my mind? I'm pretty sure that there are presets, and they used to be right here. So I Googled what happened to the presets for GoPro and Adobe Premiere. And I started finding all of these complaints. They removed it. Adobe removed it. And they said, oh, not that many people were using it, so we just removed it. Would it have hurt you to leave it there? Did you need that space for something else? And the funny part was that I actually saw on an Adobe website where one of their own people said, you do know you can go in and do that manually, right? You can go in and get curvature correction for the fisheye and all. I know that. Of course I know that. But remember, the settings are slightly different for each setting on the camera and each different camera. And you guys already had that, and you removed it. And it was one of the things I used to use. There's thousands of options in there. If you look at all the different options that are in this one setting, and you removed that one because it wasn't that popular? Really? Is that really what was going on? So that's the only problem I've had with them, is they took away one of the presets I really liked, but here they are making it extremely difficult to cancel. And if that gives you the willies, it's probably because you remember the AOL story, because that was a wild one also. So Mark, Philip, and everybody else, thanks for sending that. I read to you directly from the press release from the Federal Trade Commission, and they have taken action against Adobe and executives also for hiding the fees and preventing consumers from easily canceling software subscriptions. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The only difference between a good and a bad haircut is about 3 weeks.